honestly, like when things get hard, people shut down and they don't make their calls and they don't do follow up. And so the people that do come in the office and they make their contacts and they're doing the follow up, there's going to be a lot of business that's there to pick up. And I think the people that are doing the activities today are going to take a ton of market share over the next 6 months to a year.
All righty. This is exciting. Welcome back to Are You Winning? I am Coach Zuber, and I'm here today with Jesse Allen, who is the owner of AGL Properties. Jesse Allen has been in this business for 5 years now, but just launched a real estate team just under a year ago, really, and did 100 units his first year and is on track to do 200 units the second year. That's pretty phenomenal. Congratulations. Welcome to the show, Jesse Allen. How you been?
I've been doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on here today.
Yeah. So 100 units to 200 units in a year. What the heck? What are you doing to create that level of success so quickly?
Yeah. Lots of luck. Yeah. No. Honestly, I think we just built a really good foundational system, and obviously we went through a lot of struggles when we first started, but now we're at a point to where we're able to just plug people into that system and let it kind of grow organically, which is kind of nice.
Love it. And Jesse, where exactly are you located?
We're located right here by Louisville, Kentucky. So Southern Indiana and Louisville, Kentucky.
And you've been practicing real estate that first 5 years has always been in Louisville, Kentucky?
Yep, that's correct.
That's great. All right. So you break off, you decide to launch a team a year ago.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do that?
Really, for us, I wanted to start something that we could pass on to our kids, or you want to build your own legacy. And for me, it was difficult to do that with somebody else's name on the building. So you could say that it had to do with ego a little bit. It wasn't really ever financial by any means. It was just something that I could say that tangibly it belonged to us, that we could make the decisions at the end of the day. That's honestly what it came down to.
Got it. All right. So opening question I love to ask all the guests on the podcast is, Are you winning? Are you winning?
I would like to think that we are. I mean, if you look at the numbers and production stats, I would like to think that we're winning. In my mind, I guess it depends on how you look at it.
All right. So let's break that down. What specifically are you winning at?
For us, it's plugging agents that may have little to no experience into those systems and immediately getting them into production and able to increase their contacts and increase their conversion rates and get them in front of buyers and sellers immediately and really just get them the experience. We always joke that like when you take your real estate exam, they're going to teach you about real estate. And then once you get over here, we're going to teach you how to sell it. And so I would say that that's what we're really good at.
So in order to go from 100 to 200 units in a year, it seems as if you need to get pretty darn good at conversion. What exactly is it that you do to increase the conversion ratios of potentially an appointment into a listing or a sale?
Yeah. So, I watched a video the other day with Jason Abrams, and he explained it perfectly. He drew the graph where it was like lead generations on the left side. And then you have this giant section in the middle that's called follow up. And then after that, you have the transactional piece of it. And so, looking at that, it kind of made sense on, why our business is working the way that it's working, because we focus solely on the follow up more than anything. And so they can tell you where you need to go out and find leads. Everybody knows about open houses and pay-per-click and all the things that you can go out and find new leads. The issue that we have is that people don't know how to follow up with it. And it's because they're either using no CRM, or they're using an Excel spreadsheet, or they're not setting up their smart plans the way that they need to. And so we just made it extremely simple. And it came from something that we learned forever ago.
Okay, so 90% of our business statistically comes from follow-up. And you recognize this really, really quickly. So then walk us through exactly what you do follow-up wise that is massively increasing or like helping you win.
Yeah. I mean, it's not anything that's super complicated. So we have three categories, well, I guess four categories if you think about it for our leads. So any lead that comes in, they're either ones that we haven't had a conversation with. So they're just attempted contact. Once we have a conversation with them, we label them either as an A lead, a B lead, or a C lead. And so an A lead is going to be anybody that's going to do a transaction with us within the next 90 days. A B lead is going to be anybody that's going to do a transaction from day 91 to 12 months. And a C lead is going to be anybody that's outside of that year mark. And based on that, our system, we've built the smart plans out to where our system's going to send a reminder to the agent at 8 a.m. every morning on who they need to follow up with. So A leads get followed up with every 3 days, B leads get followed up with every 14 days, and C leads get followed up with every 30 days. And it's not something that's automated, like it's going to send out an automatic text message or an email. It just simply puts a reminder on our agent's dashboard saying, hey, don't forget about this lead, because that's where the issue comes in, is where they just forget about them.
I love that. So walk us through this. How do you determine on that first initial conversation whether they're I know the category, right? Like your 90 days or less. What questions are you asking to determine that timeline?
Yeah, I mean, really, you're just asking about the timeline, what their motivation is. I mean, all of the basic questions that you're going to ask any lead when you get them on the phone. Where do they want to be? When do they want to be there? What's important to them about that? And even if they're a year out, well, what's important about a year? Oh, you have a kid moving out because they're going to go to college. Okay, well, great. Now we're going to put those notes in our CRM, and we're going to have a conversation with them every 30 days. And it's just going to see, hey, how's everybody doing? How's Jack doing in high school? So that we're building that relationship is essentially what we're trying to do.
And it's interesting, Jesse, that you're saying is, hey, this is basic, like what everybody is doing. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it isn't. Yeah. This is not what everyone is doing. Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to have a follow-up issue.
Yeah.
Right. So the ability to walk people through the step-by-step process so that a 6-year-old could understand it is vital, because what you're doing is incredible. But now we need to know what that is, right? Like, so you're slowing down, you're developing a relationship, you're figuring out the timeline, you're figuring out specifically what would be different between 90 days from now versus 180 days from now versus potentially a year longer from now.
Yeah.
And then what? So we know that now, then what happens?
So, at that point, once they get to within that 90-day range, we're just starting, nothing changes. We're still having the same conversations. It's just the frequency that we're having those conversations is the only thing that changes on that. And even the people that are a year out, and the system's supposed to remind you every 30 days, they're still set up on the holiday emails. They're still set up on the marketing reports, because we want to keep them in the know, because, as we're going into a shifting market, somebody that may have been a year out from wanting to sell, well, their motivation may have changed because they see the market changing and they're seeing those reports that we're sending out every month. And, we have almost 8,000 people in our database right now. It's physically impossible for us as agents to keep up with all 8,000 people. So we actually use artificial intelligence to track their behavior as they're opening emails and how often they're opening emails and what they're looking at. And if they do certain things, so for example, like if they look at a property 3 times within 5 days, our artificial intelligence is going to reach out to them and try to have a conversation to see if their motivations change, if they're ready to do something sooner.
Got it. Okay. So I understand the drip campaigns. We can put people on drip campaigns and they're going to see emailers or things of that nature. It sounded to me like when you put them on a campaign, you're also putting up auto reminders to actually physically have the conversation or reach out to them. Is that, I just want to make sure for clarification.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely. So
I see that as one of the largest mistakes that people make is like, hey, the drip campaign is going to do all the work for me. I never have to pick up the phone to have a conversation or check in or see what we're doing or see if anything's changed, right? Like big mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like our agents, they can only have 75 leads in their database that like they're physically talking to and trying to sell a house or buy a house with. And out of those 75, obviously we don't want any of those to be C leads. It doesn't make any sense for them financially to have C leads in there unless you just really enjoy talking to that person. So their job is to fill that pipeline with A and B leads so that they can now look and see, what their next 3 months of financials are going to look like, what their next 12 months of financials look like. And now what became instability as a real estate agent with your finances, you can now plan your life and decide what you're going to spend money on and budget it.
Got it. Okay. Anything else specific with follow-up or what's helping you convert at a higher level that you want to address?
I mean, we use like Cyberbacker, we use virtual assistants to help us find like extremely motivated people. So, I mean, we have 50,000. What's that?
Yes. Do you have a virtual assistant that's going to come in and help? What exactly do you do? How do you have them help to find the motivated? What actually?
Yeah. So what they do is they circle prospect for us. They do outbound calls. And so say we have 50,000 people in our area. We have 3 outside sales agents that call through those 50,000 people. And they ask a simple question on behalf of an investment company. If we brought you a cash offer, would you be interested in selling? If they say yes, they immediately set an appointment for a licensed agent to go out there and have a conversation with them. So they're essentially taking a pool of 50,000 people and narrowing it down to 500, because 500 is a lot more tangible for my agents to follow up with than 50,000. And out of those 500, the agent then has a conversation with those people and they're seeing exactly how motivated they are, because then they can have that conversation about listing a property, whereas an unlicensed person can't.
Right.
Yeah.
So the virtual assistants are reaching out to find the maybes, and then your agents are following up with those maybes to see how motivated they really are.
Yep. And that's where it really gets interesting when they go on those appointments, because we categorize those people into different buckets. So my wife and I, we own an investment company. So of course, if it's an opportunity for us to buy it and flip it, that's what we look at doing. And that's a bucket that it can go into. If it's not that, well, then we try to pair it to a buyer that we're currently working with. And if that doesn't work, well, then we have the conversation with them about maximizing their profits by putting it on the market. And if that's still something that they're not interested in, well, there's a fourth option. And we have the ability to put in listings into our CRM and send it out to the buyers that we currently have already to see if it's a property that they may be interested in. So it's not necessarily a pocket listing because we don't have a listing contract signed, but we're just sending out this property with the information, and we already know who owns the property, what they'll sell it for, the address. We have pictures at that point because we can take them on the appointment. And now we're sending all of that information out to the buyers that we currently have in our database, which is around 8,000. So essentially creating an off-market MLS.
It's pretty great. What mistakes did you make in order? What lessons? What's been the toughest lessons or mistakes that you've learned along the way while you're building this out?
I would say that you can't please, as you're growing, you can't please every single person that's in your organization, because the more that you try to please everybody in your organization, the more people that are going to get upset and you lose rapport with those people. So look at things on a majority aspect of it, where it's no different. Like if we do a team event, if I can get 80% of my team members to commit to going on one day, then we go ahead and book it, and the other 20%, then they'll just miss out on that opportunity. It's no different when we're making decisions. We want to make sure that a majority of the agents are going to be benefited by what we're doing. And we just have to make sure that that happens.
Okay. So you can't please everyone. What else?
What you start out with is going to be completely different than what you end up with. So like you can sit there and spend days and days and days on a plan, and 6 months later, the market could change and everything you wrote down and spent all that time on is going to be completely different. So don't get so caught up on talking yourself out of doing something and you're spending all of your time planning. I don't know. Like we talk about it, like whenever we're talking about scripts, like we ask people like, what's the biggest objection that you get? And they've talked to 15 people and that's it. And it's like, well, you don't know, but go out there and talk to 1,000 people and you'll be able to find out really quick what objections you're getting. It's no different with running a business, just look at what other people are doing. And if it's working, rip it off and duplicate it. That's literally what people have been doing in real estate for years and years and years. Why would this be any different? You don't need to spend days and days and days reinventing the wheel.
Hey there. I'm Jeremy Herman, CEO and co-founder of Clarity Now. Listening to this podcast means that you're committed to your career and to growing your business. You're the reason why we created Clarity Now. You see, Clarity Now is the real estate software designed to transform real estate agents into business owners. Now, being a great real estate agent is an entirely different skill set than being a great business owner. That's where Clarity Now can help. Clarity Now is powerful because some of the industry's top real estate coaches built it. We know what insights as coaches top performers need to grow their business. So, do you have a business plan based on your net profit goals? Do you know how you're performing against your quarterly goals? Do you generate a P&L each month? Do you have the best tools to help your team members hit their goals? Are you managing your company's pipeline and conversion reports? Do you have the data that you need at your fingertips to run a successful business? Clarity Now can solve all these problems. Visit us at www.claritynowre.com and schedule a personalized tour to learn more. Mention this ad and we'll throw in 1 month for free. Congratulations on your success, and let's take your business to the next level together.
So planning is powerful, but the plan may change the minute that you start to execute. Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah.
Right? Like planning is where all the thinking comes into place, the strategy comes into place, the learning and understanding where the obstacles may or may not be. But the minute that you actually start to execute is when adjustments might be made.
Oh, yeah. Because in your mind, every idea you have is going to be great, when in reality, 5% of them may be great.
Yeah. So has there been a time where you executed on something that you thought was going to be brilliant and it wasn't?
Oh, man. Trying to think. That's a tough one. I don't know. Like if I had some time to think about it, I'm sure I could think of something. But I mean, we're still such a new team that, the stuff that we executed in the beginning, we're still using to a certain point. And so we haven't really been around long enough to know if it's winning or losing. I mean, the market's been so good lately that you're going to get an ROI on a majority of the things that you put into action. And so, as we're going into a shifting market, I'm sure that list will grow substantially and we'll be like, oh, that was actually kind of dumb.
Well, what's interesting about that though, is like, I see agents, they execute on ideas versus executing on full-fledged plans. So if you actually did put a plan in place and it wasn't really working the way that you thought, you're probably going to make adjustments along the way.
Oh yeah.
Right. Instead of, you don't necessarily have to cut it right out of the gate, but just make adjustments, tweak things. So in the end, it looks different, but you're still executing on that one original idea that you took the time to think through. So that's probably a positive thing if you haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah. So, and another thing I would say, like if you're looking to take away something that we've learned, is that it's extremely easy to give more money to an agent or people in general. It's a lot harder to take that money back. So if you decide that like this is your plan and this is what splits are going to be and this is what you're going to pay people, be very sure that's what you want to do, because once you do it, it's extremely difficult to retract on some of that or pull it back some.
So you should think with the end in mind so that you're not having to take things away that you promised in the beginning.
Most definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Any other lessons that you want to share that you've learned in this short period of time?
I would say the biggest thing that like we struggle with is, we built our team on systems and structure and culture. And as you grow and you grow extremely fast, you lose that culture piece as you're going through that, because everybody is so busy and everybody's on appointments and calling people and everybody's making money. But then you look back and you're like, man, we haven't done a team event in 6 months. What in the world's going on? Like, yeah, we go to like the quick lunches, but I would say make sure that you're very in touch with your team and knowing what the culture is like.
Sounds like you might need to be more intentional about planning the team events as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hire leverage because I'm awful at it. I'm one of those people that are like, hey, we should do this. This is a great idea. And then we never do it because I don't put it down on a calendar or anything. So we now have leverage where I'm like, hey, this is a great idea. Can you get this on everybody's calendar?
So besides the fact of us not having potential team events or let's just say celebrating celebrating progress along the way. What's the biggest challenge that you faced as the leader of your organization in today's market?
I would say understanding what you're not good at. And so that's been the hardest thing for me, is that as the Rainmaker, you assume that you're great at everything, when in reality, you may be great at 3 or 4 things. And so focus on those 3 or 4 things, and then find somebody who is really good at the things that you're not, or the things that you don't enjoy doing. Find someone that they come in every day and they're super excited about doing those things. Because then you have 2 people that are extremely happy to come to work, rather than one person that's miserable coming into work. So that's one thing that, like, I'm still learning, is let go of some things. Like, you don't have to do it all.
Yeah. Well, clarity's power. And in order to get clarity, clarity is a process of elimination, not addition. Right. So maybe if you narrow all those things down, you let the rest go, then you get there faster. I love it.
Yep.
What about the greatest opportunity? What's the greatest opportunity that you see over the next 12 months for the industry or for your business itself?
Yeah, for us, we own an investment company as well. And so we're extremely excited about that. And, obviously we think that that's going to grow substantially. As the market starts to shift, there'll be more opportunities there to buy and hold properties or fix and flip properties. Seller financing, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for people, especially when they've locked in low interest rates, being able to be creative on that end of things. On the real estate side of things for the team, honestly, like, when things get hard, people shut down and they don't make their calls and they don't do follow up. And so the people that do come in the office and they make their contacts and they're doing the follow up, there's going to be a lot of business that's there to pick up. And I think the people that are doing the activities today are going to take a ton of market share over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, love it. I was just about to ask you, like, hey, knowing everything that you know now, if somebody was to ask you, well, how do I get to where you're at in half the time? I'm like, well, you did this pretty fast. Half the time?
Honestly, I would say don't be so skittish. Like, I don't know if you can see what's on my board behind me, but it says, like, what if it all works out? I heard that a while back and I was like, I love that. And I wrote it on my board. So it's the first thing I see when I come in every day. And it's the last thing I see when I leave the office. We've talked to a lot of investors and agents, and they spend a lot of time talking themselves out of doing something, to where, why are we not talking ourselves into doing stuff? Because at the end of the day, like, the best investment that you can make is on yourself. So why would you not want to go out and create more opportunities with yourself? Like, I don't know, it blows my mind that, like, we try to talk ourselves out of so many things.
So what does it say again?
It says, what if it all works out?
What if it all works out? That's what's on your board?
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a little transition then, Jesse. Let's transition into the Clarity 5. I'm going to ask you some fun questions that have absolutely nothing to do with everything else that we've talked about.
Okay.
Let's use the word fun. How about that? What the heck do you do for fun?
Honestly, like, we love being outdoors. My wife and I, when we get an opportunity, we try to go kayaking or we'll go hiking. We also have 3 kids. And so, we obviously have, like, a lot of sports and dance and things like that we're doing with them. So pretty much anything that we can do outside, we are happy to do. We're both locked up in an office all day long. So yeah, that's probably the most important things that we do.
Nice. Anything else that you want people to know about you?
I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a hard question. I mean, I don't know what they want to know. I mean, yeah. So I'm pretty much an open book. Anybody has any questions about me or the business, like, I'll spill the beans. It doesn't bother me.
How about a specific TV show or movie that you're currently streaming or downloading or just watched?
Yeah, so we watch, I know they just announced that they're getting ready to come out with, like, season 5 of Yellowstone. That's a big one that we've just fallen in love with. A while back, we started watching Breaking Bad again. because we haven't seen that in years. And so, but really, I mean, we don't watch a whole lot of TV anymore. I mean, outside of like football or baseball or anything like that. I mean, obviously I'm keeping up with like the sports side of things, but yeah, I've been wanting to see like the new Avatar movie. I haven't seen that yet, and I know it's out, but yeah.
All right. Is there a book? Is there a book that's made a significant impact on your career, on your life?
Reading Traction, that was a big one. My coach recommended that to me, and that's actually how we came up with our core values as a team. We just thought we got a group meeting, and we said, if you can think of 10 people that if they joined our organization, we would be unstoppable. And they named off 10 people that they knew. And then I said, okay, everybody start rattling off what's traits that they have that they currently have. And we came up with a list of about 30 things. And I said, great, let's narrow that down to 20. We scratched that down. That was easy. Let's narrow that down to 10. And that started getting a little more difficult. And I said, all right, now we have to narrow it down to 5. And that was the hardest part. And those 5 things are still our core values as a team today.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, right? Like when we talk about clarity's power, but clarity is actually hard to achieve, right? It's because it is a process of elimination. It's easy to come up with 50 things. It's really difficult to narrow down the 50 down to 5. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. All right. So if you could go back to when you're 20 years old, Jesse, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, man. I would say write down a list of things that you actually enjoy doing, and then figure out a way that you can create a career out of one of those things or 5 of those things. You know, we talk to the team members all the time. You know, everybody wants to make a bunch of money. And I'm like, is it easier to make $1 million by starting one company and making $1 million, or starting 10 companies that make $100,000? It's probably starting 10 companies. So write down a list of things that like you just love to do, and then find a way to monetize it to where you can create a career out of it. So.
All right. So if you could pick any other profession outside of real estate, what would it be?
Oh, man. I bartended for a long time. So honestly, I'd probably go back to that. Like, I just enjoy talking to people and getting to know them and hearing their stories. And so I would honestly probably go back to slinging drinks, which is kind of silly, but yeah.
You want to go back to slinging drinks? You don't want to be a golfer or baseball player or Hollywood movie star or something
yeah.
crazy?
Don't get me wrong. I love my fair share of golf and I'm playing sports, but I don't know. I ain't very good at it. So.
All right. Anything I should have asked you that I didn't, Jesse?
I'm not going to remind you now. No, not that I can think of.
All right. Well, it's been an extreme pleasure, man. Thanks so much. I really want to thank you as a guest again for joining us today, Jesse Allen. And our sponsor, Clarity Now. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast to get in the trenches with top business owners who are winning and willing to share their successes. Thanks so much, Jesse. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Greg.